From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Arizona's Jewish community is reacting to the unthinkable after Pittsburgh's synagogue shooting, and today the accused gunman faced a judge.
Plus, just more than a week away to Election Day, and the Maricopa County Recorder is sending a warning about what voters may receive in the mail.
And new information on a growing operation at the U.S. Mexico border. Thousands more active duty troops are on the way.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Jake Trybulski.
And I'm Ashley Mackey. Thank you for joining us.
The man accused of shooting and killing 11 people in a Pittsburgh synagogue on Saturday appeared in court for the first time today. 46-year-old Robert Bowers is facing 29 federal charges after he was accused of opening fire at the Tree of Life synagogue during a worship service. The victims were remembered at vigils across the country today, with thousands of people gathering to pay their respects on Capitol Hill. President Donald Trump is scheduled to visit the city of Pittsburgh to address the attack tomorrow. Meanwhile, the rabbi of the synagogue says they will recover.
We are a tree of life, and as I've said before to many, you can cut off some branches from our tree, but Tree of Life has been in Pittsburgh for 154 years. We're not going anywhere. We will rebuild, and we will be back stronger and better than ever. I will not let hate close down my building.
The Islamic Center of Pittsburgh has donated $70,000 to the funerals of the victims. Funerals for the 11 lives lost begin tomorrow, but some families of the victims want to wait for the full investigation before burying their loved ones.
Many parts of Arizona's Jewish community are paying attention to safety and security now more than ever. Cronkite News reporter Abdel Jimenez spoke with Jewish community leaders today about the after effects of this attack.
Rabbi Levi Levertov from the Chabad Lubavitch Center in Phoenix made it clear today that the safety and security of their community is top priority.
For our synagogue, basically, what we have done is we've, of course, reviewed our current security processes. We've also decided to figure out more ways to make sure that our building remains welcoming, but as well very secure. And to do that, that takes a number of, I'm going to say, partnering with the number of members that are here, talk to them what they feel is needed, of course speak with the local law enforcement.
Those relationships are crucial, especially in light of Saturday's shooting inside the Tree of Life Center in Pittsburgh. In Phoenix, advocacy groups like the Anti-Defamation League say their work to combat hate is even more needed.
We will continue doing the work that we do in the community of fighting hate, shining the light on extremists, and speaking up and standing up for vulnerable and marginalized communities.
While the massacre still has many people in shock and grieving, some students at Arizona State University are looking for ways to heal. The Alpha Epsilon Pi, a Jewish fraternity, is planning a vigil for tonight.
You can't appreciate something if you don't understand it. And there's too much hate in the world today, and there's too much hate amongst people in day-to-day life. And understanding where people are coming from and how people feel is a very powerful thing.
For Rabbi Levertov, Saturday's shooting should serve as a lesson not of fear, but of perseverance.
If somebody will not go to synagogue or will not go to church because of this, then they died in vain. You know, so the real thing is stand up, be proud of who you are, be proud of your religion, and show up.
Another vigil involving several Jewish temples and organizations is set for 7 tonight at Temple Beth Israel in Scottsdale. Cronkite News will be there, and we will have that story for you tomorrow.
Cesar Sayoc, the man accused of sending more than a dozen pipe bombs to top Democrats, critics of President Trump, and CNN, appeared in federal court for the first time today. Investigators say Sayoc had a list of more than 100 people to whom he intended to send packages to. A 15 suspicious package was intercepted earlier today, this time addressed to CNN's Atlanta headquarters. None of the bombs ever detonated, but investigators said the devices were dangerous. Sayoc faces five federal charges. Prosecutors have asked that Sayoc be held without bail while he is transferred from Miami to New York for trial. The U.S. military is now preparing to send more than 5,000 active duty troops to the U.S. Mexico border. The new deployment, dubbed Operation Faithful Patriot, is expected to start on November 5th and go until November 15th. Some defense officials say the number of troops could increase or decrease as needed while the border is assessed. It's a move called for by President Donald Trump, aimed at sending a message as migrant caravan makes its way through Mexico. Active duty troops are being deployed to back up logistics for the National Guard, who have been stationed at the border and are not expected to come into regular contact with migrants.
Local and national organizations are working together to stop Attorney General Jeff Sessions from restricting immigration lawyers to grant bonds for those seeking asylum. The groups filed a People's Amicus brief condemning Sessions' decision to keep any asylum seeker detained indefinitely. Arizona and other immigration rights groups say Sessions' decision restricts the power of judges to decide whether immigrants should stay in detention centers or be allowed to bond out. In September, the Attorney General announced he would overturn a Court of Appeals decision which held that immigration judges had the power to release certain migrants on bond during a hearing.
And that's what we're calling it out as. We see him as just trying to have more and more power over the entire immigration system and give more power to ICE and less power to judges.
Activists say the AG's decision could increase the amount of people currently being held in detention centers, as well as anyone seeking asylum in the future.
Meanwhile, some immigration advocates are starting to question delays in the U.S. naturalization system under the Trump administration. More than 700,000 immigrants are waiting on applications to become American citizens. It's a process that typically took about 6 months, but has stretched to more than 2 years for some applicants. Some immigrant advocates are asking whether the delays are aimed at keeping anti-Trump voters from casting ballots in the election.
Voters have been receiving some false information just over a week from the midterm election. The Maricopa County Recorder's Office is warning everyone to be cautious of what they are getting in the mail. Maricopa County Recorder Adrian Fontes tweeted an example of the misinformation sent out by a third-party source. The postcard sent to citizens has the wrong election date. Fontes says voters should only depend on official sources for reliable information.
Every election cycle, you see something that was either a typo or it was intentionally put out there as misinformation for voters. We encourage people to go to either maricopa.vote or servicearizona.com for the best official information from our office or from the Secretary of State.
Fontes says that voters should not wait to report any questionable elections information. If you find a potential error, get it on record before November 6th.
Cronkite News is giving you a daily tally on early voting in the state. As of today, the Arizona Secretary of State's office has received nearly 1 million early ballots, and a top analyst says there are now more early ballots in the system than there were mailed in for the entire 2014 midterm general election. According to the latest report, just about 983,000 Arizona voters have cast their ballots already. About 44% of those early ballots were registered Republicans, while 33% were registered Democrats, and 22.7% of the ballots were designated independent or other. The estimate for ballots cast by women has risen full 4 points since the first set of votes were tabulated. Women now make up nearly 57% of the Democratic share, just shy of 48% of the Republican share.
If you wait to head to the polls on Election Day, you'll be greeted by a poll worker, but only barely. Arizona election officials say they are on track to hire and train the thousands of poll workers needed, but they admit it's getting harder to find people who are willing to put in the long hours. Some help has come from beapollworker.com, a pilot program in Arizona and 4 other states that steered hundreds of potential workers to county election officials this year.
If you want more facts related to our key Arizona midterm races and propositions, our Cronkite News team has you covered. We have a special section on our website dedicated to election 2018. Our team compiled candidate profiles and in-depth reports on ballot initiatives. You can check it out on cronkitenews.azpbs.org. Here in Arizona, some might say we have our very own Indiana Jones.
Coming up on Cronkite News, we are hearing for the first time the harrowing story of survival from the man who fell into a 100-foot deep mine.
And some families uprooted by Hurricane Florence over 1 month ago still cannot return home. We spoke to some families who are still reeling from the aftermath of the storms.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland.
In Washington.
In Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
The man who fell to the bottom of a 100-foot mine in western Arizona 2 weeks ago spoke about what happened for the first time Sunday. Cronkite News reporter Bryce Newberry has the survival story.
Tonight, the man who some are calling Arizona's Indiana Jones is recovering at Banner University Medical Center. He broke a leg and his ankle when he fell to the bottom of a mine shaft. After nearly 3 days in the dark with no food or water, he took desperate measures to stay alive.
I was popping the blisters and drinking the fluid to try to get something in my system.
60-year-old John Waddell recounted how he survived for the first time on Sunday.
We got a man that fell down a shaft that's approximately 100 feet deep, and his legs broke to beat hell.
Maricopa County deputies raced to rescue Waddell from the bottom of a mine shaft about 100 miles northwest of Phoenix.
All right, John, you're out. How you doing?
I didn't know anyone was coming for me. I thought I was going to die.
The 20-year mining veteran rappelled 50 feet down the shaft looking for gold when his rigging broke. He plummeted another 50 feet where he screamed for help.
I started hallucinating. And I'm laying back, and it's like a black cloud that's real stringy. And these figures were coming out of this like a little cloud. It almost looked like animals.
As the hours passed, it was real rattlesnakes that slithered around him.
I don't like killing them, but, you know, it was either me or them.
The sound of snakes turned into the sound of a diesel truck and an old friend offering the first glimmer of hope.
I started hearing someone hollering back, and I broke down and started crying because I knew that, you know, I'm going to get out of here. At the point you give up. You don't know what else to do. And I was just so thankful. It was quite a ride.
Keep going. Up on.
15 volunteers from the Maricopa County Sheriff's Mountain Rescue Posse worked for almost 3 hours to get him out.
He was very calm. You know, we check on his vital signs every 5 minutes. So we're constantly interacting with him.
Banner University Medical Center Dr. Cliff Jones says Waddell is already healing well.
He's a very strong person, and I think that's probably going to help out as much as anything else.
It'll take at least 6 weeks before Waddell is able to walk again. The setback won't stop him from heading back to the mine for the gold he found before falling.
This time with someone there and a little better equipment, I just might. Yeah, that's what I've been doing for 20 years, and it gets in your blood.
John Waddell just had a second surgery last Friday, and there's no word on when he'll be released from the hospital. Even though he wants to go back for the gold, he hasn't ruled out selling the property and finding something a little easier to do. In the broadcast center, Bryce Newberry, Cronkite News.
Storms from Hurricane Florence may be long gone, but the aftermath is making a lasting impact on lives of those affected.
Coming up on Cronkite News, we travel to North Carolina to talk to some of the displaced families.
And if you're tired of the heat, I'm tracking another cool down for the valley just in time for Halloween. We'll dive into your trick-or-treat forecast coming up in just minutes.
By the year 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. Before Professor Halden, I had an insane amount of passion, but I almost felt helpless because I didn't know how to use it. Professor Halden gave me a chance to make a difference. Being at a place like ASU allows you to take these big leaps. Ultimately, the biggest problems in the world cannot be solved alone.
Cronkite News, weeknights at 5 on Arizona PBS.
This year's active hurricane season has left both coasts of the country still reeling from record storms. It's been just over a month since Hurricane Florence, yet cleanup continues, with some helping hands coming all the way from Arizona. Cronkite News Washington Bureau reporter Lillian Donahue traveled to one of the hardest hit areas by the hurricane. Morehead City is located 2 hours northeast of Wilmington, along the North Carolina coast.
More than a month after Hurricane Florence crashed into the Carolina coast, there are still a dozen shelters open and hundreds of people whose lives have been completely uprooted.
And I told my baby Lucky, I said, I think we got about 15 minutes. We're going to be sitting in the water.
Trees uprooted, homes destroyed, all the belongings are scattered all over everywhere.
I'm upset, to see it all ruined like this.
They just lose it. It's just all gone.
It's a sleepy Saturday in Morehead City, North Carolina, a far cry from just a month before when one of the strongest storms in recent years thrashed the coast. The hurricane may be long gone, but its aftermath lives on as people remain displaced in the state.
You ready to go in if you want to go in?
Like Wade and Mary Rochford, the couple and their autistic adult twins cannot return to a mold-saturated home after it completely flooded during the storm.
Yeah, there's a lot of memories in here for just the 10 years we lived here. It's heartbreak on there because I've had a lot of good memories in here, and I've had a few that weren't so good, but that's just being a family,
And they're not alone.
It's not just this piece of land right here that got this damage. It's the circles that just radiate out to impact so many people.
For more than 2.5 weeks, longtime Arizona Red Cross volunteer Jean Curry has been at a local shelter where the Rochfords are staying, along with more than 30 other survivors and their pets.
Folks had a home, and now they don't. Folks had belongings, and now they don't. You have a good day, Susan.
Yes. She's helping residents transition out of the shelter and back to their lives. Like Willie, who was homeless when the storm hit. This video shows the moment he was airlifted off a van by the U.S. Coast Guard as floodwaters rose.
And he told me to give your chihuahua to him, and I will put you in that basket. And he did. Wonderful man. Picked me up like a 5-pound sack of potatoes. The good Lord sent me a miracle Monday morning of that day.
Those staying at the shelter range from whole families to the homeless. It was supposed to shut down in early October, but few resources in the area left those impacted in the community with nowhere else to go.
Communities have been decimated. A lot of the resources that you generally find in an area are just not here.
Neighborhoods like this one line the North Carolina coast. As debris is beginning to build up along the streets, so is the cost of the storm. According to the Federal Emergency Management Agency, Florence has already cost North Carolina alone $383 million.
There's no deadline. I mean, we're here to help, we're here to support. So, I mean, we're here until further notice.
We'll see you sometime.
But for Curry, it's time for her to return home to Phoenix, while survivors like Willie and the Rochford family are still facing an uncertain future.
I'm going to go back to normal. I'm going to go back to my daily activities, and yet I will still think about the people that are here.
The same thing every day, just keep moving forward, keep swimming.
Despite it all, those who had to make this shelter home agree that along with its destructive winds and rain, Florence also brought along with it a rare sense of community.
I have been blessed to have been surrounded and met by wonderful people, and without them, we would all be in a way worse situation than we are right now.
It was just a time to get together and meet your neighbors again. When do you get to do that as adults? Really?
Cell Block 6.
Yes.
In Morehead City, Lillian Donahue, Cronkite News.
According to FEMA, more than 28,000 homeowners in North Carolina applied for federal assistance in the month following the hurricane.
Back here at home, it was a pretty overcast day here in Phoenix.
Jordan, can we expect any storms this week?
So we don't have any storms in track for the next 7 days, but I am tracking a cold front, and it's going to be bringing some cooler air for us as we head into Halloween. I'll take you outside right now. This is right off our weather terrace here in downtown Phoenix. Clouds are on the increase, all out ahead of that cold front. And just to show it to you here on water vapor, there it is up in Utah and Nevada, and it's slowly making its way down to the valley, and it won't get here until about overnight on Tuesday. And while we don't have any storms coming with that cold front, we do have some cooler air and some much drier air on the way. In fact, you can see this is Wednesday overnight. That cold front will really begin to push through and drop the moisture levels even further down. In fact, dew points could be in the 20s for us here in the valley and up into the teens up in the high country. So definitely some drier air is in store. But temperatures tonight, they'll fall into the 70s by 8 o'clock and be in the low 70s throughout the overnight hours. And then for the trick-or-treat forecast, here we go here in the valley. And we'll start things off at 5 o'clock at about 75 degrees, falling into those 60s by 7 o'clock, and then we'll be in the mid-60s heading into the 9 o'clock hour. So you might need a jacket for the trick-or-treaters out there on Wednesday night. But here in the valley for the 7-day forecast, 85 for tomorrow, and then falling below average for Wednesday and Thursday into the 70s. Those low temperatures even down to the 50s as well. And then on Saturday, clouds return with highs in the 80s, I should say, and then we'll stay above average as we head into next week. Here in the Cronkite Weather Center, I'm Jordan Evans.
Arizona Cardinals quarterback Josh Rosen has helped lead the team to their second victory of the season.
Coming up on Cronkite News, how he's also helping lead high school students to personal victories of their own.
If you're looking for one show that tells you what happened that day in the world of business, it's NBR.
We saw a classic shipwreck.
Nordstrom's opening stores.
Triple-digit gains.
Crude climbs.
We're there to help our audience find new investment ideas.
The market still has room to go up.
Nightly Business Report is the longest-running business television program in history.
Weeknights at 10:30 on Arizona PBS.
I'm Matt Berry, ESPN Sports Center anchor and graduate of ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. With its bachelor's and master's degrees in sports journalism, the Cronkite School is preparing the next generation of sports journalists to tell stories that matter, stories that excite, inspire, and inform. Cronkite immerses students in covering sports at all levels in one of the country's top sports markets. It's this hands-on experience under the guidance of award-winning sports media veterans that shape the top journalists of tomorrow.
Millions of people die every year from drinking dirty water. I would never have felt I had the ability to do something without ASU pushing me. We built filtration systems out of local materials with the people. To see those kids drink clean water for the first time, it's the most rewarding feeling that you can ever have. I went to ASU because I wanted to change the world. The thing I never would have expected is how the world would have changed me.
The Arizona Cardinals are celebrating today after securing their second win of the season over the San Francisco 49ers yesterday. This marks the 8th straight time the Redbirds have defeated the 49ers and the second time overall for the season. Yesterday's win came as rookie quarterback Josh Rosen threw for 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. The Cardinals have a break for now, but will play at Kansas City on November 11th.
Rosen just left UCLA to pursue his career as a professional football player, but he could be headed back to Brentwood already this coming offseason. Cronkite News reporter Bailey O'Carroll explains.
Arizona Cardinals quarterback Josh Rosen has chosen to go back to school. The 21-year-old was back in high school for a day at South Mountain in Phoenix for the Cardinals' partnership with Endeavor, a program that helps high school students explore possible careers in STEM.
Having someone like Josh Rosen in a classroom is really helpful to get students excited for them to see that there's people in the community that are invested in their future.
These are the skills that they need and or the skills that they should be taught, and it's really awesome to see them being taught those skills.
Only 3 years removed from high school himself, the now NFL QB said he was into math during his days at St. John Bosco High School in California.
I know I didn't like to write a lot, so I definitely was more on the math side, and this is right up my alley.
But ironically, he chose his day back in a high school classroom to announce that he would be returning to the college classroom.
I'm actually going to school this off-season. I need 2 more years to finish up, but I'm really excited to go back and start learning, and especially without football, actually really study the material and try to learn and not just pass tests and stay eligible.
The former UCLA Bruin may be excited to return to the classroom, but the Cardinals have 9 more games left this season, and there's still a lot of work to be done on the field.
I'm more excited to finish this season, hopefully with a couple more wins.
In Phoenix, Bailey O'Carroll, Cronkite News.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
On the next Arizona Horizon, open enrollment for the Affordable Care Act is about to start up again. We'll have the latest and how financial aid is being used to impact tuition increases at Arizona's universities. It's the next Arizona Horizon.
I'm Judy Woodruff on the next News Hour. Battleground Florida. I anchor special coverage in a key state a week out from the election. That's Monday on the PBS News Hour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thank you for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.